Lanterne Rouge cycling podcast for the double cap Pyrenees and Tirreno-Adriatico. Part of the season, we're going to have double headers all week. We're going to have double headers of Catalunya and the classics coming up. March and April is jam-packed full of cycling. And today we had a nervous sprint stage in Pyrenees from Montesson to Bellegarde. It was supposed to be the crosswind stage, and it nearly could have been. And we're also going to recap Tirreno-Adriatico, the individual time trial, to open that race up. But starting in Pyrenees, as I said, absolutely flat, but for a couple of tiny hills, which they'd roll over in the big ring in the first hour. They start really to the west of Paris in Montesson, so they didn't really make their way south at all yesterday. It's a bit of a misnomer. And then they worked their way, directly in a straight line south. So if there's any form of crosswind, which there often is here, it splits apart the race. Today, there was mostly cross headwind, actually. So, yeah, not the stage people expected or the organisers hoped for.
I would think so as well. And I got to say, I opened up the live ticker in the early afternoon. I was like, okay, is anything happening in the race yet early on in the stage? And I got this like major deja vu because the breakaway was basically 66% the breakaway of yesterday. The Lettre, Fernandez, exactly the same as yesterday, but this time around joined by Jonas Abrahamsen of Unox. So a strong rider in a three-man breakaway that on paper should be easily controllable because of the fact that it's only three riders. And does it surprise you that we still have these breakaways of three riders in a race where Tim Merlier is by far the best sprinter?
No.
Okay.
Because, well, let's recap Mads Pedersen, Benji. What did he say yesterday? That gives some indication into the mindset of some sprinters and some teams. Recap that for us.
Okay, so I'm going to set the stage here a little bit. There was apparently an interview, is what I've heard, on TV2, which is like the Danish channel or something, with Mads Pedersen, where they asked him, okay, what went wrong in the sprint? And in that sprint, reported by cyclinguptodate.com, he, the way I read it, went very hard in on Ryan Gibbons, and I don't know the specific criticisms he was giving towards Ryan Gibbons, but he was basically criticizing Ryan Gibbons and pointing at him to be the major issue throughout the stage, leading to Mads Pedersen not being able to get a result. That's the way I interpreted that quote. Is that a correct representation, you think?
He said, my lead out's fucking shit and I would have won easily if they were half decent.
Okay, that is your interpretation.
That's basically what he said, seriously.
It came over like that.
Yeah, which, I do like when riders have their when they're candid, but he's wrong. Yep. He's wrong. Like, Mads Pedersen is not an elite flat bunch sprinter. I'm talking like the big four. Me and Benji can disagree on where Coy is, but he's not in the tier of those guys.
Yes, correct.
He's sort of Jordi Meijers is maybe better than him on a flat sprint half the time.
Yes.
This year, yes, and Algarve was bossing it. So, and in Provence, Pedersen didn't look so good. And the problem is, and here I am sort of with him a little bit, they try to do it where he doesn't surf and he does follow the lead out. And the worst thing when you're a sprinter, the worst thing is to be very strict on following a lead out that is not good. Yeah. You're better off actually surfing in that case, if you're good at that.
My opinion is simply that even if Ryan Gibbons made a mistake in the lead out, I think it's a bad thing to do for, first of all, the team spirit and the likelihood of that lead out performing better the next day. The worst thing you can do is putting pressure externally, publicly, by putting those words out publicly, So I think it's wrong to say it like that in the media. And if he does that behind the scenes within the team, perfectly fine with it. Criticizing your lead out, that's part of the job if you're a sprinter. If they do something wrong, point it out. But I just don't like the media aspect of it.
Maybe he did, but where's him thanking the team and Schelmoser for not riding? So he could go for the win.
Because that was the big mistake of Little Trek yesterday.
Yeah, obviously. So, I mean, he is also right. He is also right that I don't think, why have they got, I know they're friends, but Consoni has done good lead outs, but, why have they, I don't think their lead outs they've put together are perfect, let's say. Like the rider, like Consoni's very small. I think he should be the second last man and have a bigger guy to lead out Milan. And I think maybe, but if it's not going to work, then just have Gibbons place you and then surf. I mean, yeah. Anyway, we go to that backstory to sort of let people know that Arcade are going to go for Demar today. They're not going to go on the break with Owen Costu. They're going to go for Demar on the sprint. As he came second yesterday, he's French. They pay him a shitload of money. It's Paris. He's won here before. It's a windy stage. To be honest, I kind of understand it. And there's a lot of other teams that think that way. There's a Movistar with Agathia Cortina. They're like, we're going to put Malaysia in the break. Yeah, but they're going to put Malaysia in the break. It's kind of just laziness.
Yeah, I like a team like Movistar. I do expect to, well, it depends, because a team like Movistar might have a GC rider here that they might just want to try and defend. But let's say it's a team that, X is the perfect example of them actually doing it. They've got Christoph for the sprints, and they decide to go in the breakaway anyway, because they know Christoph on paper does not have the chances to destroy everybody in the sprint here. So they bet on both sides. And that's the thing I like. And there's just more teams that I'd like to see doing that. But I feel like we are talking about this every single sprint. So it's never going to happen. We're never going to see that behavior from sprinters, from sprinter teams. And that's, I think, the end of the argument, to be honest. But that breakaway was those three riders. Eventually, Abrahamsen ends up being the solo breakaway rider. But we got to talk about the stressfulness in the peloton, because I started watching Paris broadcast-wise when there was a crash happening around 47 kilometers to go. Talk me about the stress in the peloton.
Yeah, so yesterday, Tim Merlier, and he's probably right, he said, it was okay, and then Visma gone, they make everybody nervous. And it's probably true, like, Visma, it starts to get a bit nervous. They start going through towns, and then they get to the front with six riders and start sprinting into corners, and then it's game theory. Yeah, there's 5 spaces across the road. You want to be then one of the other 4 spots available. The Ineos, Tudor, Bora, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe actually maintained position very well both days. So then it just becomes nervous, and then there's only so many teams that can be at the front, and the same thing happened today, and it wasn't windy. If it had been windy today, it would have been carnage. There would have been echelons everywhere, but the wind really was not that hard, and the direction was incorrect. But as you said, Benji, very nervous, and we come to, what was it? I can't remember how many.
46K to go.
46Ks to go, a crash in the peloton out of a fast right-hander that everyone had sprinted into. And I can't remember who went down first, but yeah, it was actually not that many riders went down hard. It was actually, I thought it was going to be, you see a huge pile-up, you're like 5 collarbones, etc. Yeah. It was only Seneschal that was really badly hurt, and Leroux, who I think crashed first.
It's a shame, though, for Seneschal, because I feel like Seneschal is not the Seneschal he was before. Let's get that out of the way first. But every single year, he's going for Paris-Roubaix as his main goal, right? So I swear over the last 5 years, half of the years he's had like an injury. I think majority collarbones just before Paris-Roubaix, after which he couldn't do Paris-Roubaix. Now, collarbone on March 10th, he's got a month until Paris-Roubaix.
It's possible.
It's possible, but it's not ideal either,
It's not ideal. Heyman broke it in Omloop a week ago.
Yeah.
And won, so it's possible. But as you say, not preferable. So I think he'll make it back. But, he's out of contract. He had a bad year last year, and he is trying to come back into shape. I think he attacked in a race recently. I was like, he lives. So it's a shame. He probably was coming into better shape. Leroux crashed. But yeah, as I said, it all came back together. But that means it's going to be nervous again. They go through the finish line with 20 Ks to go. Abrahamsen's down to 55 seconds. So it's clear, through a corner into a town, then when they sprint, the gap would go down 20 seconds. And then they'd maintain position again, block the road, go back out 20 seconds. But then the sprint to the finish line, first round, there was 6:42 Bonies. Abrahamsen took the 6. Yes. I think Tim van Dijk sprinted for Bora.
Yes.
There was a full lead out from Kampenaerts for Jorgensen and Vingegaard, and then Tim van Dijk got in, he sprinted, and he...
Who was the Astana?
Good question. Shampoo?
Maybe, because but basically the way I saw it was, yes, that Visma train was doing it, but then the Astana rider was there, Van Dijk was there, Van Dijk ends up getting the 4 seconds behind Abrahamsen, who is in the breakaway, so he wins the sprint in the peloton, but then there's only one rider left, so Kampenaerts obviously gets out of the way. Jorgensen, Vingegaard, and Astana rider are fighting for it. No real point for 2 Visma riders to still sprint for it. So Vingegaard starts sitting up, and Jorgensen ends up beating the Astana rider, getting the 2 seconds, and that's all she wrote when it comes to that sprint, or not.
Dutch correction, from Mr. Luke.
Skelly?
It's Mick Van Dijk because Tim Van Dijk's in Tirreno.
They're basically the same anyway. I'm sorry.
I think it was Shampoo because it wasn't Fedorov. It was a skinnier stunner, right?
I think so.
But yeah, it definitely like Jorgensen, another 2 free seconds. He'll take it. I'll surprise. I mean, here, UAE Benji.
Yes.
Pollitt and Bjerg, they can't position. Like they cannot. Pollitt last year in the Tour de France, if you put him on the front, he will ride so hard. We saw it in mountains everywhere. The problem was they were never in. So you'd expect Narvaez actually to be there sprinting for bonies like yesterday. Yeah. And there's a crash in that sprint uphill. There's a crash. A lot of riders are held up, including Pollitt and Almeida. O'Connor's in a second group. Schjelmo's and Angola caught really behind. And I counted the gap at about 25 seconds at one point, maybe more. They got lucky, or not really lucky, just the peloton kept riding for a bit, got to a straight section of road, and then stopped and went flat across, and they just screamed back. But this is just the nerves, Benji.
Pause. I want to throw in a discussion point about this exact topic. So the situation, Almeida's caught behind, 28 seconds, whatever. Even if it's 20 seconds at a certain point, he's in group 2 basically with a couple of riders in between. And this is as a consequence of a crash happening in the peloton that leads to the split happening. Those are the facts ahead of you. A lot of people are quacking year on year. Oh, the peloton's losing respect. These riders are losing respect. I'm going to go the other way. Is the peloton too nice to each other? Because your position is your responsibility. If you get caught behind a crash, the fast riders can, for all I care, keep fucking sprinting.
It's a potential crosswind stage in Paris-Nice through technical towns. Everyone knows the game. Everyone knows the lay of the land. Some teams invest all day to be in front position. Other teams take a risk, stay at the back. I agree, Benji. And it's like, I think Pidcock said after Strade, he's like, I wouldn't want to take advantage of the world champ. I think the reality is Pidcock knew he couldn't go solo. So he can say that. But like, should Van der Poel, when the race is on, the race is on. And the race was on. They're sprinting through, it's the last 20 Ks. But I don't think they wait. It wasn't a conscious choice to wait or not wait. Those teams got their front position and then blocked because that suited them.
Hot take. I would have liked to see a conscious choice to start pacing because Almeida, O'Connor, and Gull are behind.
Yeah, but there's no Poggy.
Yeah, but still, those are GC riders out.
Yeah, true. Anyway, it comes back together, which is good for everybody. There's another crash by Warren Barguil through a right-hand turn, and then Abrahamson's gap goes from like 12 seconds out to 35 seconds again. Arkea come to the front. They're kind of blocking, but then it really comes down quickly as the rush from 10Ks to go to 5Ks to go happens because all the GC teams, etc. want to be safe. Abrahamson's caught. Really straight sprint. Literally like straight as an arrow for 10Ks. And it's a drag race. To be honest, I think Arkea's lead out was really good today, keeping Demar in pretty good position. They kept him forward for a lot of the last hour. Arkea were good. Bahrain bring Govakar forward. It's just Bert freelancing with Merlier. We've got the Trek train with Kirsch for Mads Pedersen. Christoph now goes for the sprint because Abrahamson's caught. And then we see it's swinging. The man that got boxed in yesterday, we get to about 500 meters to go. It's an uphill sprint. Axel Zangler launches at 400 meters to go. And it might not have been 400, right?
Wait, I thought it was Gaviria for a second, just a yellow Gaviria, but no, it was Axel Zangler.
He got boxed in yesterday and he's like, not getting boxed in today. If I look, I'll launch at 400 meters to go. He launches, he goes to the left barrier, Demar's on his wheel. Pedersen then brings Merlier up the right-hand side. And now he has the 3 best sprinters in the race on his wheel. He eventually sits down, Merlier kicks, and we all know what's going to happen next. No one can go with him. Wins by a bike length plus again, beating Emilien Genier, who is this his best World Tour result ever? It is. And he said top 10. I've already got many top 10s now. I need something better. And it's true. He is really, really good, especially an uphill messy sprint. Genier second. He's been progressing well. Hugo Page was third. He got relegated. I got to check why. I guess he swung.
I will tell you.
Pedersen gets third, Christoph fourth, Kielich fifth, Zangler sixth, Demar seventh, Govakar eighth, Fabio Jakobsen ninth, Case Bowl 10th.
So when it comes to Hugo Page, got relegated from whatever his position was, sixth or something, or third, whatever, to 136th. And I looked at the sprint multiple times to see whether Page could get a yellow card. In my opinion, I think it's fair to relegate him based on this behavior. He's basically in the middle of the road. He ends up following what happens in front of him to the left side of the road. In doing so, he hinders a rider of Tudor, I think Dainese, who is almost barriered. Yes, one could argue that Page also kind of had to move to the left because there was a Total Energy rider that would have done the same to him otherwise, but there was enough space to not barrier Dainese, in my opinion. And then on top of that, after that, he decides to sprint a bit recklessly to the right again, which means a Groupama rider almost hits the deck. It was just, if it was just one thing, I would have said, okay, maybe, but it's two things on top of each other, so I'm not shocked he got relegated.
Yeah, I think it's more, he got done for just being generally quite erratic. So that's probably fair enough. And I think, did Milano have a problem with him in Criterium de Dauphiné 4 years ago or something?
Mate, didn't Milano punch him or Page punch in Milano?
I think Milano punched him.
Probably.
But I think Hugo Page had done something really shit to him. Of course, he shouldn't punch someone, and what Milano did was so dangerous. But damn, I'm just rewatching the sprint. Like, Milano just did not follow whether it was an Oliveira or somebody. But yeah, Bert did a great job again. This is what you mentioned yesterday, Benji. It's not about the TV lead out. What Van Leeuwenberger did was stretch the peloton from 600 to 500, and I'm just rewatching, and it was indeed 400 meters to go that Zangler launched. So,
but talk about Mats Pedersen for a second. First of all, doesn't have the speed. That's one thing I want to...
And it's uphill.
Highlight. True. It should fit him a little bit better. Then again, I don't expect him to beat Merlier here, to be clear. But I was expecting a bit more speed, logically. But also, he chooses not to follow his lead out. Was it Gibbons that was in the last 700 meters going to the other side of the road, expecting Pedersen to follow, then looks to the right, sees that Pedersen is on the wheel of someone. Is it Kirsch?
It's Kirsch, this big guy.
Okay, so Pedersen chooses not to follow his lead out there, and I think that was a good decision, actually.
Yeah, I think so. They used Gibbons, I think, to block the wheel of Pedersen today. They tried to give it, they did it that way. But yeah, Merlier, you can just see the difference. He launches just about the same time as Pedersen, and it's just different gravy, just different speed. So,
Genier's faster.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a bit more draft, but
yeah, true.
Yeah, I think. Anyway, interesting, nervous day. Hopefully, Luke Durbridge and Seneschal are okay. In terms of GC, Merlier is still leading, 14 seconds ahead of Demar and Genier. Jorgensen is now on the same time as Narvaez with 6 bonies each of the, say, GC relevant people. Sheffield on 2. What else? Mick Van Dijk's in the white jersey, I think, because he took 6 bonus seconds. So he's in the white jersey. And tomorrow, Benji, we have the TT from Circuit Nevers, Mognicourt to Nevers, 28 Ks, very technical. Like, the start of this is, if you go and look at this, it looks like a piece of spaghetti. So hopefully it's not raining tomorrow. Super technical start. Hilly, intermediate time check, 14 Ks in. Then there's another hill at 900, about 900 meters, 6%, before like an uphill drag to the finish, the last K. This is going to be interesting, Benji. Like, for example, let's take Visma then. Yes. Do you just get Affini to do an all-out lead out into that last hill? Because you only, the first rider sets the time.
Oh, that's the intriguing part. I would expect not the entire train to go over the last hill. That's my opinion. I feel like it's the first 8-ish% of this time trial. I expect teams to maybe stay together. And then, like you say, on that hill, it starts crackling a little bit. Maybe a few teams go for, let's keep the key team together. But Visma's also got the slight benefit, depending on how you look at it, that they've got 2 GC leaders here. So they're not going to launch just Vingegaard, eh? They're like going to launch Vingegaard, Jorgensen, and perhaps another rider, depending on the situation. Like, I reckon we're going to see different strategies from different teams.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting. because you got to plan this TTT based on your team's strengths.
Yeah.
Maybe you go slower on the hills so you can keep the big units together. Maybe you're like UAE. You got a lot of UAE's got a lot of 70 kilo powerful riders. You don't need to go slow on the hills.
Yeah.
And I would say they leave Milano and Pollitt behind at that moment, and then you go clear with Oliveira, McNulty, Almeida, Sivakov, and Narvaez, for example. Jayco, not only is Durbridge being out shit for him because he was actually in really good shape. He survived Jabal Jais for a long time. Sorry, Toby's just back. He just went to the groomers. I'll show everybody. Toby, come here. Oh, he's off. He's gone. They were favourites for the TTT tomorrow. Jayco are always unbelievable in the TTTs, and now they lost a big unit.
In my opinion, team time trials should not happen if they're not stage 1. That's my opinion. I want your opinion. You're now showing your dog off to everybody. There's Toby. For everybody that is listening on podcast players, let me describe what Toby looks like. He looks like a dog. So.
And he's gone. Why do you think it should be stage 1?
Because there's literally a chance that you have like 3 riders left.
True. I don't know. It's true, yeah.
Because like
I've never thought
Red Bull
about
Bora Hansgrohe lost Danny van Poppel, Jayco Lula lost Durbridge. I feel like that's a bit of a serious consequence going into a team time trial.
It is, and both of those guys are really. I would say Van Poppel should be excellent in a team time trial. So the strong contenders are, we already mentioned Visma, UAE, of course, who won this TTT last year. Schachmann and co at Soudal Quickstep, I would say, should be pretty good. Usually classics riders and lead-out riders and even sprinters are quite good in a TTT, especially a technical one. Trek, we have to mention, after their outstanding upset in Valencia, they bring Gibbons, Hole, Kirsch, Pedersen, Vergara, Schelmoser, Bernard, but they couldn't bring Soderquist because it's a World Tour race. He's on the Devo team. Jayco, we mentioned. Bahrain, I don't see it. They're a bit small with Lenny, and they got to wait for Lenny and Santi and Zambanini, small too. Movistar, I think, will be good. Movistar, I think, will be really good. They bring a track specialist, Moro. They bring another track lead-out TT specialist, Milese. A sort of classic sprinter, Garcia Cortina. Castrio's a beast. Barda's a good TT rider. Romeo's the U23 TT champion. And Cepeda will just sit on the back.
But to be honest, Cepeda is not terrible at time trials either.
He's the biggest Cepeda.
Yeah. Anyway, I agree with your assessments of the teams. I'm also just very much looking forward to seeing the Ineos team because that's just such a...
Jesus. How did I not mention... They may be the favourites.
Starling, Sheffield, Jungels, Voss, Arensman, Watson and Swift. Jesus.
Yeah. So
if you've ever seen a team time trial team.
They have brought the units.
They stay together. No?
I think you leave Swift and you leave Jungels.
Or does Starling drop everybody for the stage win? Because that's an interesting angle.
That's why I actually really like the rule. If you don't know the rules in Paris, the first rider sets the time and also can then take the stage win, but then everyone else sets their own time. So you can literally take time on GC time on your own teammates tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see this. You know, Almeida outsprint Sivakov. Does Jorgensen and Vingegaard finish on the same time? So yeah, Ineos look really, really good. Can't wait to watch it. Any other thoughts from Paris-Nice, Benji?
Not exactly. Looking forward to the rest of the week. We had the 2 warm-up sprints for the week, and now the GC battle will properly start from tomorrow onwards. But talking about GC battles, Tirreno-Adriatico was on, and that started with a time trial, the typical time trial, and let's just say that GC is already a bit open. Gaps were created, right?
Yeah, huge gaps. And once again, Juan Ayuso absolutely destroyed every other GC contender, and it looked like he might have been taking the stage win. The problem for him was, especially at the intermediate time check, he was 2 seconds up on Pippo Ganna. We thought we'd have a repeat of last year where he won by a second ahead of Pippo Ganna, but it wasn't to be. Ganna, huge negative split, and it made sense because it was the fastest section to T1 and he was just cruising, and then he opened up the taps to the finish where he was 17 seconds quicker over 7 minutes than anybody else. Wins the TT 12-17 by 23 seconds. That's let me just check. So the gap from Ghana to Ayuso was 23 seconds, and the gap from second, which is Ayuso, to 16th is 23 seconds.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Ghana just obliterated everybody.
Exactly. But the way this time trial happens, like, we haven't discussed the parkour in depthly here, but I want to for a second. It's basically up and down along the beach side. And this means that you've got the wind conditions at the start, which was more tailwind for the first segment, the first 40% of the time trial. And then on the way back, the last 60% of the time trial, it's more a headwind that these riders are coming under. And like you said, we had a close battle at the T1, but then that headwind segment starts, and that's where the differences are made, because it's actually not just Ghana. If I look at the speed differentials from the start to T1 versus from T1 to the finish line, you see that Ghana and Tiberi, from my knowledge, are the only riders that only lost a kilometer per hour between the first half and the second half. So they must have negative splitted better or handled the second half better, right?
Yeah, or some riders just, I think, like Yates went out, Adam Yates, that is, sorry. We should clarify because there's both in this race. Like Adam Yates was 15th to T1, and I was like, Jesus, that's fast. Because I was expecting with the faster section to the turnaround suits the heavier riders more. Like Peterson, just Johan Price Pedersen on Albertson, Milan, Ghana, etc. And then Adam Yates is 15th. I'm like, geez, he's going quick. But he paid for it. And then he's 66th from the turnaround to the finish, where he loses all his time. You see sort of some riders doing moderate. You see, let's find someone that did more extreme. Like Eddie Dunbar, I think, paced it absolutely perfectly. He was 30th at T1, which makes sense because the faster it is and the smaller you are, you have to push. I don't really understand aerodynamics that much, but as I understand it, you have to push exponentially more watts to go just a little bit faster. And then it seems like he then actually pushed way harder to the finish, where he was 7th, averaging 52 k's an hour. And he finishes 7th from the turnaround, and he finishes 13th. Easily the best of anybody sub 64 kilos, I'd say. Easily better than any, like the next sub 64 kilo guy is probably Healy. So that's a standout performance from Dunbar, but he still loses 21 seconds to Ayuso. You know.
Question, just next to that, technology-wise in this time trial, I was looking at certain riders, and to me it seemed like specific riders were wearing other helmets and equipment than other riders from the same team. How often is that done? Because the likes of Jonathan Milan, to me, looked like he was wearing what's the brand Pogacar wears? A Met? M-A-T?
Yeah.
A Met helmet. And then I looked at Ciccone and I saw a Giro helmet. Gregoire was riding with the Bahrain helmet, Rudy Project. Like, those are not the helmets that their teams usually wear. Like, how does that work? Can these riders just choose, or is that because their helmet brand does not have a TT helmet? Or
Trek riders are allowed to use the helmet that suits them best. Because the Bontrager one's not fast.
Okay.
I don't know about Gregoire. But yeah, and sometimes you see riders within the same team using different versions of the same brand, like the short version. Like some of the guys in UA, I know Met make a super wide one and then a narrower one, and you'll sometimes see like different riders using different versions that suit them better. But yeah, huge win for Ghana. As expected, does the job. Tiling won in UAE. Ghana wins here. Should have been his second win of the year, actually, after he was robbed in Algarve. And just helped Ineos are off to a much better start this year than last year. Other GC riders that did a great time, Antonio Tiberi, only 6 seconds behind Ayuso. He also paced it quite seemingly like a negative split. Derek G, he just won the TT in Gran Camino. He's 6th here, and it's a soft route too, so he's looking good for a good GC result. Who else? Del Toro, 9th.
Yes. But
Bocala, 10th.
How much, like, going into this race, they've got Ayuso, they've got Del Toro, they've got Adam Yates. Like, there's only so much Fighting leaderships you can take either. So
I don't think
feel
Del
like Del
Toro's in that
Toro.
good shape.
What, sorry?
I don't think he's in that good shape.
I also just expect Del Toro to fall into a domestique role faster than an Ayuso and an Adam Yates when needed. And to be honest, Ayuso looks to be the leader right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, he
I
has
have to favor
such,
for the race, obviously.
he has such a big gap on GC already to everyone except Tiberi. He's dropped everybody in Drome on punchy hills. In La Guelia, he was also the strongest on punchy hills. We've got a couple of stages like that. He's probably going to take bonus seconds. Probably can win the hard hill stage on stage 5 or whatever. And then they got the strongest mountain train with Del Toro and Yates to just defend on the 7K, 7% climb. They don't even have to do anything.
Yep.
Like out of the box. And Ayuso should just win.
I agree. Like Ayuso is the heavy favorite for this race going forward, but I am looking forward to seeing whether we see Tiberi continue this trend of a good time trial right now into the rest of the race. Also for the approaches towards future Grand Tours this year. Same for Derek G. Is he going to be on paper the parkour, like you said, fits him to do well in GC? What's that going to give in the Giro in a couple months? So for me, it's also with an eye on the Grand Tours that are coming, where these riders might also be going for their own GC. So that's a portion I'm very much looking forward to. Romain Gregoire also going for GC, right?
Yeah, he should be after his performance in Algarve, and the route being a bit soft here in terms of hard mountains, it's got some very long and difficult stages, but that's usually what Tirreno-Adriatico does. It's a preparation also for these riders for Milano-San Remo. That's why Mathieu van der Poel is here, etc. So Olav Koy, for example, you see, okay, how far can these sprinters make it? Can Kevin Vauquelin, if he's doing Milano-San Remo, can he position for these other long stages with uphill sprints coming up in Tirreno? So, yeah, very interesting. And a lot of the GC Giro leaders, as you mentioned, Benji, Ayuso, Tiberi, G, Del Toro, Adam Yates performing as well.
Do we still consider Kian Uiterbrooks in that group? Because let's be honest about it, last year he was in a top 5 position at the Giro before he abandoned the race. But obviously his time trial was dog shit today, like lost a minute 13. We know that by now that he can't time trial, even if life depends on it. But do we still considering him? Because we've got Vingegaard, Jorgensen focusing on Tour de France when it comes to his Malisa bike. We've got Simon Yates that is now part of it. I completely forgot what he's scheduled for, but I'm guessing the Giro for the team. They've got Koy lining up for the Giro as well. Then for the Vuelta, Vingegaard is on paper going as well, Tour Vuelta double, I would say. That is my view of things. And I look at this and I'm like, okay, there's no space here for Kian Uiterbrooks to go for GC in Grand Tours, which right now he also hasn't really proven to deserve, to be honest, at the moment. But then again, in a Grand Tour last year, he was still top 5 before he abandoned.
There's always space. If you're good enough.
Yes, yeah.
Vingegaard made space.
Yeah, but
Jorgensen made space.
But was it after the last year? It just looks blatantly obvious to me that Kian Uiterbrooks was not worth the winter season drama that happened around him, because that was insane.
Well, yeah, long-term contract until the end of 2027, but he's still only 22 years old. Started the season well in Oman, but indeed, the time trial, especially on the flat, is not. It hasn't improved dramatically, although it was really bad in Tirreno here last year. So he's 20 seconds closer to Ayuso this year in this TT, but still, it's not. Like in Fornardesh, for example, Brenner and Scaroni are popping off. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. What's he scheduled to do on PCS? Copy
Bartali. But I'm sorry, but I don't care about Kian Uiterbrooks' results in Copia Bartali, Tour du
He never won a race.
Tour du Du. That doesn't matter to me. He top 10 the Vuelta. I'm here for his GC results this year. For him, it's probably fun to win a race, but at the end of the day, Copia Bartali is not going to change my view on things for Uiterbrooks as a GC rider. That's my opinion.
Well, it's true. It's true, of course. It's not. Yeah, it's not the same as top 8 in the Vuelta. But yeah, we'll see. But you're right, Benji. It's like if Del Toro, I don't know, in a Giro,
Yeah.
he kind of gets a free roll because there's Yates and Ayuso. But again, is he? I don't know if Del Toro really wants to just go all out for GC at the moment. I think he wouldn't mind getting in a Giro break.
I think I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but like race wise, he top 5 the Tirreno last year, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
Didn't he get
Pitfall
fourth in
6
GC?
more or less.
Which shows that he can do well in GC in a race like this. Just hierarchically, he's not in a position right now to be the top 2 leader in this race. For the Giro, that is also the case. But he's in a different position for me where he's still 21. And on top of that, he is consistent right now in results. As in, he's been performing this entire year, you know? So I see Del Toro kind of... It's weird to say, but Uitebrooks at Visma is in a very different position than Del Toro at UAE, which that's an obvious one. But Del Toro's closer right now, in the way I see it, to riding for GC at a Grand Tour again.
Well, yeah, like he's close. I mean, there's maybe more cooks in the kitchen there, but
yeah.
It's more like if you went all out Project Isaac Del Toro white jersey Giro,
yeah, you can
probably be the favorite for it, him and Taberi. So, but I'm just saying that's probably not what they're going to do because they send Yates and Ayuso. But you're right, he could do that. And his trajectory looks really good. Some of the just one thing I'm noticing, and this is another confirmation from the UAE tour, is Ciccione's TT. I don't think it's dog shit anymore. Oh. I think it's all right now. I think they've fixed it, and it's not going to be good on the flat. But he was 13th in the flat TT in UAE. He's 29th here. Last year in this TT, they didn't do Tirreno.
2 years ago, 20th though. It's weird.
Wait, what?
Yeah. But the other TTs that year were terrible.
2021, 82nd.
Okay,
I'm trying to revise my theory. Okay, new theory. New theory, Ciccone can't hold the position longer than 12 minutes because he doesn't train on the bike.
I think that's a good theory. I'm going with that. I'm following you.
Any other GC results that stand out to you? It's kind of a lot of the skinny, smaller ones are kind of middling, but like Simon Yates, Hindley, Ciccone, middling TTs, not good, not great, not terrible. Pidcock, middling. Yeah.
There's nothing here that stands out to me where I'm like shocked by it necessarily. I need to see more. And this time trial gave the result that I expected. I expected Ghana to win. I didn't expect him to destroy everybody by the amount that he did, which I'm happy to see for the sake of Ineos. Ayuso looks very good, which was the expectation. Tiberi with a good time trial. Expectation. G as well. Just in general, kind of the results are low-key what we expected, no?
Yeah, no big surprises. Tomorrow's stage is the sprint stage from Camaiore to Follonica. Starts with a 2K, 4% climb. We then have an intermediate sprint, 109 Ks in. Very gradual hill, 4%, 4Ks, 4%. About 75 Ks from the finish. And then they run along the coast to the finish in Follonica. It's in Italy, so even though they do head directly in a southerly direction, crosswinds are illegal. So don't expect to see any crosswind action or at the same level of nervousness as we saw in Paris-Nice. In terms of the sprint itself, well, actually there is a little bit of crosswind. So at least for the sprint, you should pay attention to what side of the road you're on. Last 5Ks, they take a roundabout, 5Ks to go, turn right, then sort of some fast bends, no real corners in the last 3Ks, to be honest. So pretty safe sprint until there's a right-hander with 300 meters to go. So you have to be P5 or better at that right-hand corner. So there'll be a huge fight for that. And then, you got to open your sprint pretty sharpish, I would say.
I think so as well. When it comes to the favorite, Jonathan Milan. So I'm going to go with Jonathan Milan.
There's a corner in the finish, so I'm going with Koi. Because, I'm not sure
not
about...
on the start list. That's why.
Yeah, this is Kavir. This is the sprint he's been waiting for. What other sprinters do we have here? Groenewegen, Bennett. Bennett's actually been in really good shape. Paul Manier. Paul Manier should be mentioned with the shape he's in. He's still, today was the first day he was outside the top 3 in a race this year. Brian Coquart.
Van der Poel doesn't, eh? Small sprints?
I don't think Van der Poel will do it. No.
Same.
Van der Poel will go for the, he's going to go for the 3rd stage, which is like 250 Ks with like some hills at the end. It'll be way safer. So I think he sits the one out tomorrow. So we should see a good sprint between Milan, Koy, Groenewegen and others. Hope you enjoy the pod as always. And we'll see you with the double header recaps tomorrow. Until then, ciao.